Hello, in this episode I show you how to use a trick in Photoshop to simulate a long exposure shot without filter and without tripod. Come and join me. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs and welcome to episode 43 of my photography, Lightroom and Photoshop tips. My name is Serge Ramelli and I am a French photographer living in Paris, France. Viva la France! Hello guys, I'm back from Israel where I shot over 1,200 photos and I will publish some in the next days. I love that country. It's beautiful. It's the first time I've been there and it's really great. And actually I want to show you a trick. 2 weeks ago, I showed a photo of Montmartre and a way to use a clone and stem tool to take people out using layer and masking. And people has been writing in the comments saying, hey, there is a much easier trick. Try using the stack modes in Photoshop and the smart object. And I was like, what? What's the stack modes? What's the smart object? I didn't know nothing about it. So I watched a few tutorials on it and I'll show you a trick that will speed up a lot the processing of taking out tourists. And I further investigated the stack mode and found another way we can use them to simulate long exposure. The whole idea is this: you're in front of a waterfall and you only have your camera. You have no tripod and you don't have an ND filter to make long exposure. Well, you can just put your camera in manual mode, stand there and take like 10, 12 shots of very sharp shots, each of them, and then use the stack mode to simulate the long exposure. But let me show you how this is done. Okay, before we get into this tip of this week, I want to show you something that 2 weeks ago I showed you how to use a clone stem tool to take people out of a photo. And I did that with layers, and actually people in the comments of the video on YouTube gave me a trick that I didn't know that I will show you today, which will speed up tremendously the process, where you have a lot less of clone stem tool to do. So first thing, you retouch. This is all the 3 photos that are retouched. I retouched the first one. I synchronized my retouch on the 2 other ones. I'm going to take all 3, right click, edit, and open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, once it's open in Photoshop, I click open anyway. So they open each one on their own layer. This is the same procedure than I did, but what I showed you was very complex. I'll show you a trick which people left me in a comment, which is a lot easier, and especially if you've got tons of photos, because if I should have stayed there with my tripod and just keep on shooting and shooting and shooting. So first step is always to make sure that your photo is aligned. One of the best way to do that is just to make sure. If you have some doubt, you just click on all 3 photos. You go to edit, auto align layers. It's very important for this to work that the photos are completely aligned. Okay, that's perfect. Then it's just a 2 steps. First step is right click, convert to smart object. So this will convert all 3 photos into one group, which is a smart object. And then you go into layers, smart object, stack mode. It's a bit complex. And you go to medium. Okay, so that's smart object, stack mode, medium. And check this out. What this is going to do is going to average. You see how I show you with Command Z before and after. It's took out this person. All these 2 people just went almost out. I mean, there's still a lot of job to do, but it's a good starting point. And the thing is, if you keep on taking photos and photos and photos, eventually you can use this technique and you take everybody out. So 2 step. First step is, if I go back, is just to take all your photos, align them, convert them into a smart object, and then use this stack mode. I think that only works with Photoshop CS5 Extended or Photoshop CS6. Now, then I got interested into the stack mode and I want to show you something else. That's the main tutorial for today. So Command W, I'm going to not save this, but that was just a little trick. I'll show you a way where you can, if you want to do some long exposure shots and you don't have an ND filter and you're in front of a river or something, this is a trick where you can approach it. It's not perfect, but it's so easy to do. The whole idea is that I took this waterfall and I took a whole bunch of photos of it, and I was not with a tripod. It was handheld, And so I took in manual mode so that every shot had the same exposure. So all I have to do now is correct just one shot. So you know my techniques. I'm going to open up the shadows, bring down the highlights, open up the whites until I see some dots, bring down the blacks. Okay. And maybe just add a bit of vibrance, add a bit of clarity. One thing that's important is click on remove chromatic aberration and unable profiles correction. I'm going to do some post-crop vignetting. Yeah, something like that. I can check camera calibration, landscape to see if it's a better color. Yeah, it's more colorful. Also, a lot of people are asking me when they go to Lightroom on camera calibration, they don't have the same choice than I have. They hardly have any choice. And that is two reasons. The first reason is because you're not retouching a RAW file, you're retouching a JPEG. Camera calibration only works with RAW files. And second, camera calibration is based on a manufacturer. If you have a Canon camera, it's not going to be the same ones than a Nikon camera. So with Canon, I always go between Adobe Standard or Camera Landscape. But anyways, that's the first idea. So now I'm going to take all my photos and click on synchronize. Make sure check all is synchronized, and I'm going to correct all the photos in the same way. Then I'm going to right click, edit, and open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, now the reason I want to do that is because, okay, I'm going to click on open anyway. I want to align them. I don't want to convert them to smart object because there is also an option to directly open them up as a smart object. I don't want to do that because this was shot handheld, no tripod, so there's a lot of variation between the photos. So it's very important to use the auto align feature first. So let's just hold on a second. I'm going to put this on pause until they are all loaded into Photoshop. Okay, so they're all loaded into Photoshop. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 photos. Now check it out. If I just move the first photo, take it off and on, see how they are not aligned. This was not shot on a tripod. So I'm going to select all by pressing the Shift key and all the layers. And then I'm going to go into Edit, Auto Align Layers, Auto, OK. And that's going to make sure that all the layers is aligned. That's first step, very important. Then, so that you can see the before and after, I'm just going to take the top layer. I'm going to Command J it to put it on its own layer. I'm going to turn it off. It's just to show you the before and after. So then I'm taking back all my layers. I'm going to right click and convert to smart object. So I'm creating just one smart object. And then I'm going to go into layers, smart object, stack mode, as we did before. But this time we're not going to use medium. We are going to use mean. And mean is works just better for that long exposure look. So let's click on mean. And check it out. It's got a bit this long exposure. Look at the water. I'll show you the before and after. That's the before. Let's zoom in. That's the before. And that's the after. See how it sort of gave a long exposure look to it? And so if you are in front of a waterfall and you don't have a tripod, that's a way to do that. So then all I have to do now is take my crop tool by pressing C. I'm just going to crop out anything that I don't want. And I can finish my retouching in Photoshop. So I'm going to finish this up in Photoshop instead of Lightroom for a change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to create a blank layer that I'm going to put, that I'm going to call Dodge and Burn. I'm going to put this in overlay mode. And you know, if you follow my tutorials, you know that an empty layer in overlay mode, if you take a brush, and I'm going to press X to have the white color as the first color. And then I'm going to go into opacity and make it around 20%, something like that. Okay, and now I'm going to paint with white on the water just to make it pop a little bit more. Okay, it's going to help simulate this effect. Now, as you can see, I'm exaggerating it, and you can really see the lines here. Okay, I'm just doing it really fast, and And voila. Now this looks awful. You see that's before and after. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur the hell out of this brush strokes so that they cannot be seen. So 106 pixels, something like that. So it's just, you know, it's just making this water even brighter, you know, and making the lights, if you think it's too strong, you can just turn it down with the opacity. That's one way of doing it. Okay, but check it out. You see, it's very sharp, except where the water is. You know, it really did a bit this long exposure trick, so I think it's really fun. And last but not least, I want to make, you know what, I'm going to flatten this image, layers, flatten image, okay. And I'm going to reduplicate the layer, put this one into multiply, because I want to make this whole thing dark. And I'm going to do my own vignetting. The problem with doing vignetting in Lightroom, and this is being corrected in Lightroom 5, is that the vignetting that you can do is only equally the same everywhere around. I want to put the attention on the waterfall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my marquee tool, rectangle marquee tool, and put it around the waterfall, just like that. Now this is a very high res photo, so then I'm going to go into select, modify, feather. I'm going to feather 400 pixels, and then I'm going to press delete. Okay, and this made a vignette exactly where I wanted. Now this is a bit too strong, so I'm just going to turn down the opacity, but I'm going to leave it that way, you see, getting people to go really into the waterfall. So yeah, that's the basic idea of this. Before I say goodbye, I just want to show you that if you go to my website, photosearch.com, and you go onto English tutorials, you've got about 11 courses. Each course costs about $10. And if you, for example, Lightroom 4 retouching, if you click on the course, you will come to a new page that's going to give you exactly what you get for this $10. All the before and afters. So you can really see, like, that's all the before and afters. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects. And you will get all the raw files. It's about 2 hours of video. That's just one course for $10. So for example, for Lightroom, I've got the Lightroom 4 Quick Start. The Lightroom 4 Quick Start is just a 2 hours course that will get you started in all the modules of Lightroom. Importing photos, retouching your photos, making books, making websites, everything. The whole shabam. That's the Lightroom 4 Quick Start course. Then you've got the Lightroom 4 Retouching. The Lightroom 4 Retouching is just retouching projects. All we don't do books, we don't do website, we just retouch everything from start to the end. And if you click on the Lightroom 4 Retouching, you will see the exact before and after projects. The Lightroom 4 Retouching, this one, it's called the Lightroom 4 Retouching 2, or Travel Retouching, which you can find here. If you click on it, you will see what it is. It's basically another 5 or 6 projects of just retouching from the end to start. You know, we don't go into anything than just pure retouching. And so you get all these 3 courses. Instead of paying them each $30, you get it for $25. And when you click on this, basically all you get is the video files and the raw files. The video files will explain you how to retouch them, and the raw files you can just redo the retouching, follow along, and have a good understanding of Lightroom. Okay, so if you like that, please help me share this podcast to your friends. And if you do share it, I will send you the raw files that I've used, the waterfall raw files that I've used in this episode. All these raw files, it's so you can play around with it and make your own long exposure and your own retouch of that waterfall taken next to the Dead Sea in Israel, which I shot last week. It's a very nice place in Israel. So I'll give you all these raw files. All you have to do is share this podcast to your friends on Facebook or Google+, you know, wherever you want. Send me a little email. The email should be there on the screen, and I'll send you all these raw files so you can play around with it for free. Thank you very much for your help, and I'll see you next week. Let's get back to the studio. Okay guys, so I hope you liked that tutorial. As I said in the videos, if you share this podcast to your friends or Google Plus or Twitter or Facebook, whatever social network you have, I'll give you for free all the raw files from that beautiful waterfall in the Dead Sea in Israel. I'll give you all the raw files so you can train with them and try to retouch them and make the best photo that you can. Thank you very much for your help, and I'll see you next week. Au revoir.